Hi, this is Jace Gordon Octorli here with the first video of 2025. Now, originally I was going to do a top 10 worst and best books I read of last year. Unfortunately, I got a cold on New Year's, and I was sick for the past week, so I wasn't able to do much, and even the times I tried to do a video, my cold just interfered. It prevented me from doing anything. So that's why this video took so long. But I wasn't going to allow it this cold to prevent me from doing anything else. I am feeling a lot better than I was yesterday. So I'm finally able to do this video after just resting a lot, taking lots of medicine. To scare this cold is I hate getting sick. It's the absolute fucking worst. But anyway, enough about that. So last year, I read a total of 49 novels, which is very impressive. I was going to try to reach for 50, but unfortunately, the book that I just recently completed, it was very thick. There was a lot of detail to read through. It had a lot of kind of like subplots that happened in the story, so it took me longer to get through that book. So I was only able to reach 49 last year, but that's okay. 49 is still a lot of books, so my goal for this year is to surpass 49 novels and read more books this year. So I also plan to read a lot of book series. I got picked out as well, so I plan to read a lot of big book series, both like small ones and big ones. So I got a lot planned for this year, and I'm reading a ton of books as well. Alright, so let's get on to the top 10 worst and best books I read of last year, starting with the worst books I've read. Number 10, Pet Sematary by Stephen King. This was a decent read by King, not one of his worst, but it could have been so much better. The basic plot of the novel is that it's about a family that moves from Chicago to Maine. They live out in the wilderness. There's a big long road which truck drivers use as they don't have to pay highway taxes, and they speed down this road because there's no speed limit. The main character, Lewis Creed, has one neighbor that lives across from him, this 80-year-old man and his elderly wife. It's a small family, and as they're moving in, their neighbor tells them about a pet cemetery, which he takes the family there and reveals that a lot of the residents that lived in this area buried their pet animals that died either from roadkill or old age, and this upsets the daughter, who's concerned something will happen to their beloved cat, Church. And the father tries to ensure his daughter nothing bad would happen to her, and when the family goes to visit the wife's parents for Thanksgiving, as the main character dislikes the wife's parents a lot, especially the father, who is an absolute asshole towards the main character in the story. Lewis is then woken by his neighbor when he calls in saying that he thinks that Church has been ran over. When he goes outside, he finds Church is in fact is dead, and now he's like, oh shit, how am I going to explain this to my daughter and everyone else? So then Lewis's neighbor tells him to put Church in a bag, and he says, we're going to go somewhere, and they travel through the forest, and they go past Pet Cemetery to this ancient burial ground, and the neighbor won't say what it is they're doing. He just tells Lewis to bury the cat as he needs to explain something to him, and that's the only way to do it, and he'll understand the next day. So Lewis does this, and the following morning, he is shocked to find Church is back alive again. However, his fur looks messy, he stinks badly, and when the main character picks Church up, he feels heavier than he should. But he seems to be somewhat himself again, despite the fact there's times where Church looks at Lewis with a hostile look and just looks angry at times. And then when the family returns back, they're like, oh, see, Church is still fine. However, the wife notices that Church is acting a bit different. And then later on in the book, she doesn't want Church in the house anymore because he's constantly hunting like birds and mice and stuff. But he doesn't eat them. He just cuts them and rips them to shreds. And Lewis's neighbor is trying to explain to him that dead is sometimes better, as he buried his, years ago he buried his dog, and he brought it to there, and when the dog came back, it wasn't really itself, and he had to put it down. But Lewis could not bring himself to put down Church again, because it would devastate his daughter, who had, like, a bad dream of losing the cat. So then, tragedy strikes the character again during a family picnic when Gage is playing with a kite out in the field, and the wind blows it away, and Gage is running after it, and there's a truck coming. And the main character tries to stop Gage from running onto the road, but he trips and watches in horror as the truck runs over his son, and this devastates him. This destroys him. The family's upset, and then the wife's parents absolutely hate the son, which leads to a fight at the funeral. Um, so the father is just destroyed at this point. He doesn't know what to do, and then he remembers the burial ground, so he decides he's going to take Gage there, and things go from bad to worse at this point. I thought the idea of like basically a character discovers that there's a burial ground that has supernatural powers is really cool, but the plot is like too simple and basic. I wish there was more to the story, as I felt it would have been more interesting if the main character starts experimenting on the dead. Like he starts resurrecting like animal corpses and people to try to perfect it so he could get a person 100% back to themselves again if they were to die in an accident or something. But no, the Stephen King doesn't go that route, and I also thought it would be interesting if the main character the more he visits this ancient burial ground, it causes the spirits of that area to be disturbed and they begin haunting the living. I thought that would have been cool too, but it doesn't go there either. I said, I felt the plot was just too simple, basic. I wish there was more to the story. While the book did have its eerie and creepy moments, I felt it wasn't that scary, and this is another thing. The book is called Pet Sematary, but that's just the name of a place in the story. It doesn't have anything to do with the plot of the book. I kind of wish it had something to do with the story. Like as Pet Sematary is just a place in the book, but it's this ancient burial ground that's where the things are brought back to life, not the Pet Sematary. So I wish the name kind of tied in more with the story than just being a place it's featured, but it has nothing really to do with the plot of the book. So, yeah, I just felt it could have been better, and I remember when I posted my review of Pet Sematary, people were saying it was like the most scariest King book they ever read. I didn't really find that scary at all. As I said, it could have been better. Number 9, 2-Minute Warning by George LaFontaine. I pulled this book out after seeing the film of The Same, and I actually thought the movie was going to be not as violent as the book was. But it's one of those instances where it's the opposite, where the film is more violent than the book is, and actually way better than the original story that it's based on. So the plot of the novel is basically it's about a film crew is working in a trailer at the football stadium in Los Angeles, and they're getting ready for the big football game. Then one of the technicians notices they're behind the scoreboard from the Goodyear, spotted from the Goodyear blimp. There's a man with a sniper rifle on top of the scoreboard, and he's like aiming down at people. And he quickly notifies security. They contact the police when they realize it's not one of their guys, and why wouldn't they be armed with a sniper rifle when they're just armed with like pistols? The police chief shows up. He then calls in SWAT, and they're trying to figure out a way how to take down this guy without alerting him. And they're trying to figure out, is he here to just shoot innocent bystanders, or is he here for one of the politicians or even the president? So the premise sounds good, but the book I felt was very boring. I don't mind. The book focuses a lot on the killer a lot, and I felt it was a little too much, as the author gives a lot of backstory on why the person's the way he is and why he's doing this, and I felt it was a little too much. I don't mind a little bit of backstory, but too much. I feel it kind of like it's just too much filler. So the book mainly focuses on the backstory on the killer, and you learn that he had this traumatic childhood, really terrible parents. He was kind of what's the term? Very socially awkward. Like he had a hard time socializing people. He had no friends. He was a loner. He was picked on, and after his mother dies, he became a drifter, just doing odd jobs here and there. And after having no success with anything, he decides he's going to assassinate the president to make a name for himself. And this just went on for too long, to the point where I was really getting annoyed reading the backstory of this character. I was like, oh, I found him kind of whiny and just annoying at times. It's like, enough's enough. I get the idea. I don't need any more backstory. And the author just kept focusing too much on this killer and less on the civilian characters and the law enforcement characters. In the film, that follows a lot of characters. It follows both the law enforcement and a bunch of civilian characters, and very little on the killer, which I liked, as they made him more mysterious. You don't know what his motive really is. but in the book, I felt the law enforcement characters, they really didn't have any personality. They kind of just felt the same, so there's no personalities that bounce off each other. The three civilian characters that the book follows is a priest, a young family, and I believe an older couple that's having relationship problems, but that's it. And these characters I really didn't care for, but in the film, they had so much more personality and layers to the characters to make them more interesting. So at least the film improved a lot over the book, and the finale was way better in the film. As the book finale, it kind of sucked. Like when you, like I'm like as you read for this book, it's a very slow burn to get through, and just when you get towards the end of the book, you're like, okay, is the author going to deliver like a big grand finale? No, the killer just bumps off a few people, and then SWAT open fires and just takes them out, and that's it. I thought, really? Luckily, though, the film is a lot better, so it's one of those rare instances where the film is better than the book it's based on, so I'm just glad the film is a lot better than the novel is based on. I was really disappointed by it. I was expecting the book to be a lot more darker and brutal, but it was just a very boring and not really good thriller, if you ask me. Alright, number 9. Number 8. Among Madmen by Jim Starlin and Daniel Garcia. When I discovered this book, it kind of reminded me of Garth Ennis's Cross, like it predated it. Basically, the plot is about some virus or something causes people to become berserkers, as they're called, hostile towards other people. So this leads to the main character taking his wife and pet dog up to the Catskills in New York to try to survive the event, and while helping local law enforcement to dealing with people who become berserkers and being on the lookout for raiders who travel in gangs attacking like towns and stuff, like and stealing anything they can. This sounds like a really cool idea, and the book had some really cool illustrations which kind of gave it like a graphic novel feel, which I really liked, but I felt the story wasn't that good. I felt there were some ideas that the author did not flesh out well. The main character is not really likable. There's not actually that many likable characters in the novel. The main character is also not the sharpest tool in the shed. He makes constant mistakes. One of them, his wife, who's also a berserker, will have sudden urges to try to kill him, which he has to lock her up in a soundproof room in the basement until she calms down, and she has a constant habit of killing people, which the husband has to, of course, cover up. And I'm like, why are you keeping her alive? Like you're playing with fire here. It's not worth keeping her if you ask me. But he does this constantly throughout the book, which causes tension within the town as they're becoming suspicious of him as people are disappearing, and they're trying to negotiate with this nearby town, which doesn't work all the time, and this leads to people like just shooting each other and stuff, and there's really no sign if someone's a berserker. They just suddenly attack someone for no reason, and I wish there was like, you know, like a mental illness or something that would show, like physically show that they're infected and stuff. Like there's no way to tell if someone's a berserker or not. And then there's a subplot in the book. There's a serial killer that's killing people from the other town, which is causing more tension. And the main character tries to capture the killer by having patrols, but they have no luck. And then when the book reveals who the serial killer is, you're like, are you shitting me? It was someone that the main character suspected was a berserker, but said nothing about it and kept quiet and just basically made the situation even worse. It was not really a good book. It does, while it has some moments of like fighting and action, but it's not a lot. And there was one part I was really disappointed in the book. Very early on, when the main character is retelling the events of how this event happened, there's a part where he talks about this general who locks himself up in a base and is threatening to fire all the nuclear warheads at Russia because he believes that this sudden virus that's spreading is from the Soviets, and it's a sneak attack. And I thought, ooh, we're gonna get some like nuclear war part happening here, right? No, the authors don't even go that route. Basically, some person is able to crawl into the air vent and shoot the general before he can fire the nuclear warheads, and then the United States government, the USSR, just agreed to disband all their nuclear arsenal while this viral outbreak is taking place. Are you kidding me? You could have really pushed the boundaries if you had the general just press that button and just cause like total destruction, and it was just the whole world is setting into madness. That's what I thought I was gonna get. Even the cover of the book like shows like this, like the world just descending to madness, but you don't really get a lot of that. You basically get told both from the main character and other characters of events like what happened, but you don't see it. So I was really disappointed in this book, and it has a really lame ending. I thought it could have been so much better. Like, it had a really cool cover, the illustrations I really liked, but again, the story I felt could have been so much better, and I felt if the authors really fleshed out some of their ideas, made some of the characters more likable, and added more to the story, it could have been so much better. Okay. Number 7, The Lake by L. Carl Largent. This is one of the worst killer animal books I've read in a long time. It's one thing that really annoys me when I see a book with a really cool cover. It's got like this ferocious killer animal, and the synopsis says this book is all about this killer animal, and you're going to watch this thing like wreak havoc and cause mayhem and destruction while racking a high body count where these people are trying to stop it. Unfortunately, the book is something like that. The author, this is the same issue I have with Jaws, Razorback, and the City. It's the same thing with three of these books, where it's the plot is about these killer animals, but the author focuses more on stupid subplots, and the like, it has so many of them. So the plot is basically, it's about this Arthur character that comes to this small southern town, and he's there for vacation. He's there to see friends and hook up with his girlfriend, but there's an incident happens where 2 teenagers are killed in this lake. One is found with his right arm chewed off. The other isn't found until a few days later. And the main character and the girlfriend go to investigate, and something rams their boat, which causes them to fall off. And the main character nearly gets killed by this killer fish, which is a gar pike. And he is saved by residents and stuff. Right after this, the author decides to stop focusing on the killer animal plot and add all these stupid subplots about corruption, crime, cover-ups, a murder mystery, and then halfway through the novel it turns into a disaster thriller where a bunch of scientists come in and they state the lake is heating up and just going to release this toxic gas and it's going to kill everyone. So they have to evacuate the town. The mayor is furious, of course, because this is what brings business to his town. And he's trying to open it and find ways to keep it open. But after he's told by the governor to shut it down, he takes all his anger out on the main character, who he blames for sticking his nose in. Which, matter of fact, the main character is just an author. That's all he does. He's not a journalist or reporter. So he's constantly getting involved in people's business. I thought, why are you doing this? Why are you getting involved? You're not a journalist or reporter. Like, it wouldn't make more sense if the author made the main character like a journalist or reporter, like trying to get to the bottom of what's going on. That would make sense. But no, the main character is just a writer, and I felt the author did this is the only way to tell the story forward, rather than, focusing on a different character. Like, the author could have done that. No, the author just focuses on one character. So the entire book just, the whole theme just instantly changes from horror to a murder mystery to like a conspiracy theory, a conspiracy thriller, then a disaster thriller. I'm like, where is the killer fish? What happened to the killer animal plot? As I read this book, it barely talks about the fish at all. It goes a completely different route, and then at the very end of the book, the killer fish makes one final appearance, and he disappears, and that's it. I thought, you gotta be shitting me. And it's a very thick book too. It's like 400 pages, and you would think a book that thick is going to focus more on the killer fish, not a bunch of stupid subplots. Oh, I was really disappointed with this book, and not only does the author focus more on on the subplots and less on the killer fish, but the way the writing structure is terrible. The dialogue is awful. There were many parts where I cringed at the bad writing. The dialogue was terrible, and I thought, hell, I could write better than this. This is terrible. Oh man, the whole book is just a huge disappointment. And it's like, how many times have I pick up these killer animal books and it's not, and I'm not getting what I want? It's like false advertisement. To me, the book should have been retitled something else and had a different cover to show what it's actually about. Like, if you're gonna advertise a book with a killer animal, but it's not the main plot, don't bother. That's just false advertising. You're ripping people off. That's not right, if you ask me. Oh, just a shitty book. Just, absolutely avoid the link. It's absolutely terrible. Number 6, Shoot by Douglas Fairburn. This was another thriller book that I discovered on a Facebook group, and it had this really cool cover, and the premise sounded really interesting about a bunch of guys that are out hunting, and they come in contact with another group of hunters, which one of them shoots at them, and they return fire. And so I thought, this sounds interesting, and I got a really cool cover of the one book, and there's another edition that has a really cool cover. So the basic plot is about these guys. They're a bunch of friends. They're ex-veterans from World War II and the Korean War, and they like to go to this one hunting spot in Canada, and they always have a good time there. They're very big gun fanatics, and they're a really outdoorsy type, and they really enjoy hunting big game and stuff. So they're out on their favorite spot when they come in contact with another group of hunters, and they just stand there. No one says anything. Then one of them shoots at them, and they return fire. One of the friends gets nearly killed when a bullet passes by his head. It grazes his ear. One of the main character's friends shoots and kills one of the other hunters. So the two sides quickly flee, and the main group returns to the States, where they take their friend to another friend who's a medic, who they want to avoid going to the hospital because they're afraid they'll get arrested by police, who might take the other group's side story, not theirs. So the book, after that, the book follows the day-to-day life of the main character, who is a self-centered asshole. I really dislike the main character, who doesn't like his wife, as they don't get it on anymore, so this leads to him going out with prostitutes all the time. He's kicked out one of his sons, who he dislikes his hippie lifestyle, and the main character starts looking into the other hunters, who he finds out that they are also ex-veterans, with the leader of the other group, a World War II fighter pilot. And he's annoyed that there's another group that's taken claimed their hunting spot. So he decides him and his friends they're going to hunt down these other hunters, and so they can claim their hunting spot back. And he convinces other people to join them, gets more guns and ammo and body armor and a lot of a military truck. And the ending of this book sucks. Like, I'm reading this, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get to like a big a scene where it's just a whole shootout and stuff. No, I don't get that. So at the very end of the book, when they get there, when they get to the spot where it happened, one friend starts arguing with the other about going somewhere who doesn't want to, and this leads to an argument. All of a sudden, they are fired upon by 100 men. So they're shot at like 100 guys, and basically they all get killed. And I thought, what? And I actually had to read the ending over again, because this ending comes out of nowhere, and I thought, what the hell just happened? I thought, wait a minute, you mean to tell me that the other side did the exact same thing, but just doubled their men to outbeat the other guys? Like, what? I thought this book could have been so much better. I thought it would have been a better idea if the book starts off with the hunters. They're at the spot, they get there, and it's just them talking, and then they come in contact with the other hunters, and then when one of them shoots at them, the whole book is about basically of this group of hunters being hunted down by the other guys, and it's basically these two sides trying to outsmart the other one. That would have been a way better book, but no, the author didn't go that route. And it was just, I thought this was a really disappointing book. Like, there's no likable characters. I felt it was like a very slow burn to get through. Like, not much really happens in it. Like, the beginning has that really short little bit of action, and then there's just a lot of rating. At the very end, I was expecting like a big shootout, and I didn't get that. Now, I've been told that the film is somewhat better. I'll have to look into it. It's kind of an obscure film to find, but if I get a chance to find it, I'll check it out. Alright. Number 5, Night of Power by Spider Robinson. This was another really disappointing book. This was a book that I had read 3 times, as the first 2 times I really didn't get far in it, and I was determined this for the third time to complete the whole book, hoping that it will get better, but it does not. And one of the biggest disappointments with this book, it has such a cool cover. Like, it's got the cover of the book's got like these 3 gang members. They're looking at the person. They're looking at like with a hostile look. In the background, you see a wrecked car that's on fire. The Brooklyn Bridge in the city of New York is in complete darkness. And every time I look at this cover, it makes me think of the Walter Hill film, The Warriors, of what if Cyrus from the Rifts wasn't assassinated and all the gangs worked together to take over the New York City. That's what this book reminds me of. It makes me think, what if that happened in the film? Unfortunately, the author doesn't go that route, and it's such a huge letdown. So the basic plot of Night of Power is that it's set in the dystopian future of 1997, I believe, in New York City, where this family is left Halifax, where they live, and they're traveling to New York for a short vacation, as the wife got offered a Broadway show there. The father's hoping to visit his parents again, as it's been a long time, but he's also hoping that the city of New York has improved since the last time he's left it, as it was not good. But upon the arrival of reaching New York, it has gotten much worse. There are more gangs. There's a lot of graffiti covering the walls of buildings and stuff. There's a lot of abandoned places, wrecked cars on the streets, and a lot of gangs. And on their way to the hotel, the family is attacked by a gang, and then later on, the father gets a ticket from a bunch of crooked cops that don't believe his story about a gang attacking his car. And when they finally get to the hotel and they finally get settled in, the next day, the father and daughter go to visit his parents while the wife goes to the Broadway show, where she's doing some show for a few days. She finds that her ex-boyfriend is still there, who's now part of this militia group, and who wants to get his ex-girlfriend back, and he's forcing her to do things against her will. If she refuses, he'll kick her out. Which leads to tension and arguments between the husband and wife later on in the book. But when the father and daughter visit his parents, they disapprove of his marriage, and they're very hostile towards the blacks that are moving in the area, which leads to another fight. And this whole book is just drama, and I'm not enjoying it. There's a lot of rough sections in the book where it's very rough to read through, and basically things go from bad to worse when one day the wife comes home from a show, and her hair has been shaved off. She's wearing this outfit, and the husband is furious with her that she's allowing this guy to do all this stuff to her, and he's decided, you know what, we're gonna get the hell out of here. But the wife's ex-boyfriend shows up and takes him at gunpoint, which they nearly get killed by a drive-by from a rival gang. And then the daughter that's gone out to see a show goes to see this band play. The lead singer plays some very controversial songs, which causes a riot to break out. And basically that now, the father is trying to get his daughter back, and the daughter's trying to find her parents. And the entire time that this is going on, you don't see hardly any of this gang warfare that's going on. You're only told what's happening from other characters, what's happening. That's it. So there's you don't see any scenes of gang fighting other gangs, or fighting cops even, or the military. No, you're just told from other characters what's happening, and I really hated this. It's I want to see the action that's happening, like the cover on the book displayed. I want to see that. I don't want to get told from another character what's going on. And there's so much drama in this book. It really got boring. I was tired of the stupid arguments between the characters. The wife I really hated, to the point where I wish the main character would say, you know what, screw you. You want to stay in this stupid militia group? Fine. I'm going to go risk my life to find my daughter and get the hell out of here. I was really bored, and this militia group, they easily take over New York without any problems or challenges. They take over instantly like that. I thought, this is bullshit. I thought this book could have been so much better. I thought it would have been so much interesting if it was about the book follows these three characters as they're trying to get out of this city while this gang warfare is this big gang war is happening, and you're seeing all the chaos and destruction that's happening and stuff, and basically the father and everyone else is fighting gangs, even cops. Even I was expecting to see a lot of that, and I was also wanted to see more of this this dystopian future within the New York setting. But we get hardly any technology that's featured. We get a lot of large TVs, satellites, and the main character's car is very high tech. It's got a built-in screen that shows has a GPS that has an auto voice that lets them know when they're out of gas and what routes it takes. So that kind of predates how cars are today. But I didn't get more of that sci-fi theme I wanted. And this book is a huge letdown. I thought, this sucks. For a book to have such a really cool cover, it was such a huge letdown. I thought it could have been so much better. Number 4, Hannibal by Thomas Harris. This is the third book in the Hannibal series, and this is the one I really did not like. Last year I did the Hannibal series, well, overall, while I enjoyed the first two books, but the third one was the absolute worst of the series. So this is set after the events of Silence of the Lambs, and this basically follows Clarice Starling, Hannibal Lecter, and some other characters, but the whole plot I felt could have been so much better. So basically, it's set in the 90s where Clarice Starling is now like is gone up the ranks in the FBI, and she's asked to take part in this like drug raid with DEA and ATF, and it goes horribly wrong where a big shootout happens where they try to capture the leader of these drug dealers, and 5 agents are killed, and Clarice shoots the leader of this drug dealer, and there's this one corrupt FBI agent that pins all the blame on her, and then one of Hannibal Lecter's surviving victims, Mason, who he convinced while under the influence of drugs to cut off his face, and then tried to kill him by hating him, but survived. So he's has a broken neck and he's paralyzed from the waist down, and his face is absolutely disturbing to look at. So when Mason finds out that Hannibal is still alive and he's hiding out in Italy, he puts a bounty on his head as he wants him captured, and he plans to capture him and then feed him to a bunch of wild boar and record it to watch him die a painful death. And then Clarice Starling gets involved in this, and the rest of the plot from here just goes downhill. And I was like, what the hell is happened here? I talked about this in my review, so I'm not going to repeat myself what I said on it. What I said. So if you want to hear that, just watch my Hannibal review. But I really wish that Thomas Harris thought of a better idea for the story, as he was paid a lot of money by the studio to make a sequel after the success of Silence of the Lambs back in '91. And I just wish he could have worked with the studio to kind of brainstorm some ideas, so they could have done something different than what he wrote instead. I know that Harris does a lot of research for his books and stuff, and it took him like 8 or 9 years to write this sequel, and when he wrote it, it was not what the studio expected it to be, and I felt he could have done so much better with the plot. He could have done something interesting, add some new characters, a new killer, or something different, something that would have made this book better. It just, I really didn't like the plot of it. So many unlikable characters I didn't like in the story, and the one thing I will say I absolutely do not like is the whole part where Hannibal uses drugs and hypnosis to turn Clarice Starling into his cannibal lover, and I was like, where the hell did this come from? This is just insulting to the fans of the other book. I just didn't like this at all. I thought, what the hell were you thinking when you came up with this? Like, I don't know if he was trying to go with shock value, but to me, it did not work at all. As I said, Thomas Harris could have come up with a better book, in my opinion. He could have wrote something way better and something that could have ended off the series or something. All right. Number 3, Dead of Winter by Darcy Coate. So this is one of the newer books I read on the channel, and I really like this. The premise of this book, basically, it's about a bunch of people. They're on vacation. They're going to this cabin out in the wilderness during the winter season, and everything's going fine when suddenly a snowstorm hits them, and then one of the guests is killed, and there's a serial killer hunting them down, and they're cut off from the outside world, so they're trying to survive. This sounds like a really cool idea, but the book was the polar opposite. So when I began reading the book, it starts off like the beginning of it is basically it's an aftermath of what's happened, where the main character is like trying to get somewhere and she's like struggling to stay alive. And then the next chapter it cuts right back to a before that event happened, where they're on the bus and they're talking to each other and they're on the way to the cabin. Then the next chapter goes right back to the main character trying to get somewhere, and then she's finally saved by the guest. Then it cuts kind of back to like before she reaches the cabin, reveal more of the characters that she met on the bus and stuff. Then it goes forward from after this point. But I'm not a fan when the stories are told out of sequence. I'm not really a fan of that. I like it when a story is told right at the beginning, so I can see how everything happens. Like to me, out of sequence moments just it takes me out of the story, and I don't like the when don't like it. It really wrecks the pacing of the story. So after reading that, and then when the story then follows the main character with these other characters in the cabin, none of the characters are likable. They're not likable. No one is really that smart. They make so many mistakes throughout the book where they fail to lock the cabin that they're in. Like they fail to secure it. They spend more time arguing with each other than actually working together as a team, which this leads to the death of other characters in the story. And I was really getting mad at these characters to the point of, you know what, I don't care at this point. The killer might as well bump everyone off at this point, because everyone is so fucking annoying and stupid. Why should I care for these characters if they're just going to spend most of the time just arguing over the stupidest thing than helping each other? I couldn't care less for these characters. The one thing that really annoyed me with these characters, I felt they were very lazy. Like, they don't want to go anywhere. They're at this cabin and they're trying to figure out what to do. So one of them suggests, why don't we get back in the bus and drive out of here? They get to the bus, they find it's been sabotaged, and they can't repair it. So they end up going back to the cabin. Then one of them decides, let's try reaching the nearby town. They try this. They get halfway down the road, then they get lost somehow, and they go back to the cabin again, and it's like they don't know what to do. And then towards the end, the main character decides, let's all go to the place we're supposed to go. And it's at this point, they don't want to go anywhere. I thought, do you really want to risk your life staying in this cabin when the door apparently has no lock on it? Oh, it's just... I just found these characters so annoying and stupid. And the main character herself, I really did not like. I found her very annoying. She complains a lot throughout the book. And then, towards the end of the book, it finally reveals why these people are being picked off one by one. Is it turns out the main character's boyfriend wants to get revenge on all of them because he feels that these people are responsible for the death of a family member, which led to the death of his parents. And I'm like, what? You're killing all these people because of an accident that happened all these years ago when they had nothing to do with it? This is stupid. And this was another dumb moment in the story where he also reveals that he was the one that sent these fake tickets to this lodge when in fact it was closed. And all these people thought they won this trip and they all went there. I thought, wait a minute, no one did any background checks when they got these tickets. No one looked up the cabinet to see if they had a contest, and if so, how did people just don't hand you free tickets for nothing? I really could, that part I absolutely face palmed at these characters. I thought, you people did no background check on these tickets. You just accepted them and went along and didn't question anything about it. And I was thinking to myself, what about the bus driver? Who paid him to take them there? It was just a terrible book. The pacing is very fast. It felt sloppy at times, and even towards the end, it gets really sloppy. And this was a terrible book. It was not good at all. It was, I felt the detail I felt could have been so much better. Like there's like a few scenes where the author goes into brief detail about the scenery and what the characters are wearing, but the author doesn't describe what the killer is wearing. And that was actually one point I was thinking to myself, aren't these people paying attention when the killer appears? Like, do they get a glimpse of what he's wearing? No, they don't. And so the detail could have been better, and every time the book featured a scene when someone's killed, the author writes very little detail in that. Like, it was like the gruesome scenes really bothered this author, and just the whole plot I felt could have been so much better. Like, I thought would have been a better idea is that these people did in fact win a trip to this cabin, and they're on their way when suddenly the bus they're on gets into an accident, and then they're trying to get to the cabin, and the snowstorm hits them, and they're being picked off one by one as the killer caused the bus to crash. Or they get to the cabin, no problem, everyone's having a good time, and then as soon as the snowstorm hits them, then the killer appears again. That would have been better, but nope, the author doesn't go any of those routes, and it was just one. I know, like one thing that annoys me is when the author has to explain the reason why is the killer doing this, and sometimes the explanation is so bad. I thought to myself, why don't you just make it more mysterious and just have it's like a psychopath that just happens to be there and it's just killing these people for fun, like something simple and stuff like that. Like sometimes like the whole revenge thing, it's like sometimes it's just not well executed if you ask me. So that was an absolutely terrible book. All right. Number 2, James Bond, Book 6, Dr. No by Ian Fleming. This wasn't easy trying to decide which James Bond book I was going to pick on this list, as there was a lot of books that I didn't like in the series. Out of the 14 books, only 7 of them I liked, and then the rest I didn't. So this wasn't easy picking one, as I almost went with The Spy Who Loved Me, which is one of the absolute worst books in the series, but I decided not to pick that one as it's very well known, and I thought it would be kind of too easy picking on that one. Man with the Golden Gun is another one where it was not a good book at all, but that was written. That book was written when Ian Fleming's health was really bad, so I decided not to go with that one. Diamonds Forever is another bad one. Oh, and You Only Live Twice was another one I almost went with, but I decided to go with Dr. No, as I felt this book had so much potential. It could have been so much better. Like, some of the James Bond books, they have, like, really good beginnings, but the finales, I feel, are not that good. And other times, it's, like, kind of vice versa, where the beginning parts are not that good, but the finales are really good. So I decided to go with this one. So the basic plot of this one is basically about James Bond is sent to Jamaica to investigate the disappearance of 2 MI6 agents. He's got a character that makes an appearance from Live and Let Die, who's a boat captain that's assisting him, and of course there's the Bond girl he meets on this tropical island, and then he discovers that there's an evil scientist that lives there. He's responsible for the death of the 2 MI6 agents, and this is where the whole book just goes downhill. Dr. No basically is just an evil scientist. He doesn't have any plans for world domination or to unleash a super weapon of any kind. He's just an evil scientist that just wants to perform his experiments and not be disturbed by anyone, and that's it. I was like, really, Ian? This is the best you can come up with? You could have done so much more here with this book. While it does have an interesting part where James Bond has to go through like a maze of death and he has to fight like a giant octopus or squid at one point, but I just wish it had like, you know, Dr. No has like he's got a like a major plan. He's gonna like unleash a super weapon, cause mass destruction, a high death toll, or help Smirch take over the world. I wish it had something like that, but Ian doesn't have that. And this was one thing I was really getting annoyed with some of Ian Fleming's books, where he's got these like mixed breed of like half black and half other mix of race people in his books, and this one has like these half black, half Chinese people, and it's like, why are you doing this, Ian? Why can't you just have generic bad guys and stuff? Why you gotta keep adding these like strange breeds of like two different races mixed together? Luckily though, he stopped doing that in later books, but this one I felt like it had such a cool idea. I loved the setting of an evil scientist living on a tropical island. I just felt it could have been so much better. Luckily though, the movie of the same is a lot better than the book is based on. Alright, number 1, Mona Lisa Overdrive by William Gibson. One of the worst books I read of last year, and this was a book I decided to give another try after I tried it like years ago and I didn't get far in it, as I found it very boring. So this time, when I did my Cyberpunk 2 series, I decided I'm more determined to read this book to see if it's better than his second book, Count Zero. This book, it's not good at all. It's like a step further backwards than Count Zero was, as I felt that was a step backwards and forward. So the basic plot of this book is it follows a bunch of characters. The first one is this daughter who's being sent to London from her father, who's a Yakuza boss and wants to keep her safe when there's this Yakuza war going on in Japan. Then there's Molly Millions, who now goes under a different name. She's a retired mercenary, now works as a bodyguard. And then the other characters is this one guy. He lives in an abandoned factory in Detroit, and he makes sculptures for a living, and he suffers from memory loss. His punishment is from being a car thief. And later on, he's asked to look after this person. He's then asked by a bunch of friends to look after this person, who it turns out to be Bobby Newmark, Count Zero from the second book, who's in a coma and basically has to be looked after in the real world, as he's unable to look after himself, and he's like this big like fat, overweight person on a stretcher. He's hooked up to all these machines. And yet, later on in the book, when they go into the cyberspace, Bart Newmark is like just he's like living in paradise. It's like, oh, everything's fine, and when the characters are trying to explain to what's going on in the real story, it's like, oh, I don't care, I love it here. It's like, what? And then the other characters are basically, you got this prostitute and a bunch of criminals. They want to kidnap a model so the prostitute can take the place of this model. And what they want to do with the real model is never explained. But this whole book was boring. This is my major complaint with William Gibson. He is terrible at doing sequels and action set pieces. He is terrible at it. He barely describes any detail in his stories, very little, and so you have a really hard time trying to vision what these worlds look like. There's hardly any high-tech gadgets featured in the novels. Like, I want to, like, this is in the future. I want to see some gadgets, some machinery and stuff. Show me some sci-fi cyberpunk hardware. We don't get any of that. None of the characters are likable. They're all flat, dull, boring. I don't care for any of them. And as I said, Gibson is terrible at action set pieces. There's a part where Molly finds out that these people that are looking after the Yakuza's daughter in London, they're gonna hold her for ransom from one of the rival bosses, and it's basically Molly is able to get the daughter out no problem. She holds one person at gunpoint, and the guy lets her go, doesn't shoot at her, and they easily get away. I'm like, what? I thought that this scene would have been so much better if Molly displayed her she has like augmented like fingers, so she has like these sharp razor nail blades, and I thought this would have been so cool if he could have had her display her skills as a mercenary, and she hacks these guards to pieces, and the daughter's like, whoa, I didn't know you could do that, and she reveals, yeah, I used to be a mercenary. Like, have her fight her way out of the apartment building, not just grab the daughter, hold some person at gunpoint, take a car, and get out. Like, come on, put more effort into the story, Gibson. And another thing I thought would have been so much better if Gibson focused on the Yakuza war, because that would have been so interesting to see that. But no, we don't get any of that. So another missed opportunity right there. And then the other two plots, I really don't give a shit about. Like, I don't care about this guy that has memory loss that makes these sculptures. I don't care. Him having to look after Bobby Newmark, who's overweight. I don't care. And oh, and the other characters that want to keep this model. I don't care. None of these characters are likable. There's no one I like. This whole book is a fucking bore. It's like the same issue I had with Virtual Light. It's mostly forgettable. It's like looking at a plain concrete wall with nothing interesting to look at. That's what this book feels like. It's boring. There's no action, nothing. This book is a complete bore, and this baffles me. Why do so many people like Mona Lisa Overdrive and Count Zero over Neuromancer? I don't get it. While Neuromancer has its flaws, but that is a better book in my opinion. Neuromancer at least has action. It has rich detail, and the characters all have different personalities. It seems after that, Gibson doesn't know how to do a sequel. Doesn't know how to do action set pieces. He just... I just don't think he's a good author in my opinion. To me, as of now, he's a one-hit wonder. Like, this book could have been so much better. I felt if Gibson cut out the other two plots and focused more on the daughter, the Yakuza father with the war, that would have been better. If the whole book was about that, that would have been a better novel. But no, it just goes all these different directions, and it has a bunch of unlikable characters, and there's nothing interesting about the book. It's just a complete bore, and I was just really let down when I got to the end of this book. I was like, what do people see in this book? I don't get it. I just don't get the praise that Gibson gets for all these other books, and everyone ignores his first one. I just don't get it. When I read other books by other authors that do sequels, sure, sometimes they don't always hit the mark, but there's times where I read a really good sequel and the author does exactly what I want as a reader. Gibson does the opposite. He just doesn't do what I want. Ugh. Yeah, so overall, Mona Lisa Drive was just one of the worst books I read of last year, and I was just really disappointed. But I thought Gibson had a chance to make up for his second book, and this one he really just dropped. He doesn't give a shit at this point. He just does whatever he wants, and he doesn't really. I feel as a writer, he doesn't really improve as a writer. He just seems to get worse over time. And I thought he really delivered a knockout with Neuromancer, but after that, he just hasn't done anything that's piqued my interest. I do have two other books by him I do got to read sometime, but as of now, as I said, Gibson is just a one-hit wonder, and I really wish he would improve as a writer because he has so much potential, but unfortunately, he doesn't seem to care, unfortunately. Alright, now on to the top 10 best books I read of last year. Number 10, Roadside Picnic by Arkia and Boris Starsky. This was a reread. This is one of the books that I definitely want to read on the channel, and I'm glad I finally did. It's one of my favorites, despite it being too short, as I felt the authors could have explored more on the whole world of Roadside Picnic, as it's a very interesting setting and concept. Basically, it's about an event known as the Visitation, the Visitation, when these aliens, dubbed the Visitors, bring these artifacts and leave them behind, and it causes the whole world and environment to change. As the scientist describes it, as you take the globe and you spin it and then you shoot at it like 6 times or something, and that's what has caused the world to change and stuff. So there are 6 zones that are heavily patrolled by police and military personnel, and there's stalkers who go out into the zone to collect these artifacts as they're very valuable, and some of them have like powers and stuff. So the book follows this one stalker, Red, who's a very experienced and skilled stalker who's good at avoiding patrols and finding artifacts and stuff. And the one thing about when you go out into the zone and stuff is that you can't just simply walk walk anywhere. Basically, there's these hidden force fields that can injure you or kill you. So what the stalkers do is they take big like bolts or nuts, and basically they tie, like, I think some of them have like rags, so they tie them and throw them, or they just toss bolts and nuts, and so they throw them so if nothing happens, then they know that area is safe. But if they disturb a force field, then they know, okay, I can't walk there, it's too dangerous and stuff. There's also mutated animals and creatures and stuff, but the book doesn't really feature that a lot. It mentions a bloodsucker, but you don't get to see what it is, and to me that kind of sounds like a person that's been mutated from the effects of the visitation. It's a really, like, I really like this book. It has such a really interesting setting and concept stuff, but as I said, I feel it's too short. Then there's a part in the book where the main character turns himself in for some stupid reason, so then the book follows these other characters for a bit before it brings back the main character again, and I felt, why did you do that? Like, have the whole book follow the main character. Why follow someone else all of a sudden? That was like one of my complaints with it, and as I said, it's really short. Like, it's not a long book. I felt the authors could have expanded upon so much more with the story, characters, and the whole world of the zone and stuff. There's another interesting thing about the stalkers, which basically they have a risk of if they want a child, they have a risk of basically giving birth to like a deformed baby or something, and the main character still wants a child with his girlfriend, who's concerned about it, but he still wants to raise a child, so he gets this kind of mutated girl who looks like a monkey, and that's what they actually name her. At first, everything's fine with her, like she's really smart and intelligent, but then she becomes more animal-like as she gets older, which upsets the mother. And then later on in the story, Red is kind of starting to turn into like a humanoid dog person as he begins sniffing the air. So I really like that. So there's very, like, it's very risky to go out into the zone. There's a lot of like things that can happen to your body when you go and explore stuff. But these artifacts possess such valuable powers and stuff. And there's this one that's very powerful, the Wish Granter, or the Golden Ball, as it's called. So it's this is one of my favorite stories, and I'm glad to read on the channel, and I definitely like to read some more books by Arkia and Boris Starsky. Okay, number 9, Silence of the Lambs by Thomas Harris. this was the book that I liked out of the Hannibal Lecter series. Even though I felt the movie of the same was a lot better than the book, but I still enjoyed this novel. I really liked the plot of it. Where basically, you got a rookie FBI agent who has been assigned to help aid Jack Crawford try to get information from Hannibal Lecter to track down the serial killer Buffalo Bill, and the stakes are really doubled when he kidnaps a senator's daughter, so the stakes are really high. So Khaleesi is determined to prove herself as an FBI agent. However, in order to do this, she has to reveal her dark past to Hannibal Lecter in return for information. And this was a really good book, and I felt Harris really improved from his first novel, Red Dragon, as I felt he revealed the character. He revealed the killer like way too early in the book, so you know who the killer is. So it's not this big reveal who it is. So in Silence of the Lambs, the offer features very little of the killer. He reveals short yet very important pieces of detail to the reader, so you get a good idea of why the killer is the way he is and what his motive is. And this is mostly towards the middle end of the book, so I was fine with that. And I love how the story follows both Khaleesi Starling and Hannibal Lecter, as these two characters were interesting to read about, and very well written, good pacing, good detail within the story, and a lot of eerie and creepy moments in it. And overall, I just really enjoyed the book. But probably my favorite part is Hannibal Lecter's escape. It is absolutely amazing how he does it, and when I seen the movie, so I was trying to figure out how's he gonna pull this off, and I kind of figured out how he did it. I was like, Lecter is a really smart person. He's very patient, and he really knows how to manipulate anyone. So I really enjoyed it. He was a really good killer in the book, and Khaleesi Starling was really interesting to read as well. And yeah, overall I really enjoyed it. It was probably my favorite book of the Hannibal Lecter series. Alright. Number 8, Dr. Adder by K.W. Jeter. This is one of the strange and weird books I read last year. This is part of the Starpunk series that I started, and I know I know I haven't yet to complete it, and I'm going to get it wrapped up this year, as I got a lot of book series I got to read on the channel. But anyway, this was a book I wanted to check out after I discovered it, and I really liked the cool cover with the guy. It's got like this like cybernetic first of all, it was a glove, or like kind of like the Power Glove thing. Power Glove. That's what it kind of looks like, the Power Glove. He's got this thing on his hand, and he's like shooting his laser beams. Like, ooh, what can that do? So, and then the whole plot, it's set in this like very violent dystopian future in Los Angeles. So I thought, okay, this really interests me. So I finally got the book, and I was completely shocked, discovered that it was illustrated, which was like, oh, this is even better. So the basic plot of the book is about this guy. He works on a chicken farm in Arizona, and he's assigned to deliver a briefcase to the character of the same name, Dr. Adder, but it's not revealed why he's doing it until later on in the book. And when he gets to Los Angeles, it's controlled by like a lot of criminals and stuff. Very little. There's no law enforcement. Just everything's controlled by gangs and stuff. And there's another. The book also mentions there's other parts of the city that are controlled by government agent, like ex-governments and stuff. So a lot of states are controlled by their own state and stuff. But when you finally meet this Dr. Adder character, he's a very dark and twisted individual who gets off making people turning them into freaks and stuff. He can do any surgery or operation on you as long as you have the money to pay him and stuff. So the main character is basically hired to deliver this flash glove, which is this powerful weapon that the CIA developed and stuff. And then after he does that, a bunch of things start happening. And while this was a good book, as I read, this was apparently the author's first book he wrote, and he completed back in '72. And he tried to publish this, and no publisher would take it at the time because it was too dark, violent, or just too different. And it wasn't until the '80s, of course, when it was finally published and stuff. But I felt I wish the author, K.W. Jeter, he rewrote some parts and kind of explained more and added more to the story to make it better, as there's a lot of ideas this book has, and he either touches upon a little bit of it or doesn't focus enough on it. So that's my only complaints with the book. It is a very weird book. It's not for the faint-hearted, as it's very dark and disturbing at times, but it was. I still enjoyed it. I thought this was. I still liked it for what it is, and I definitely look forward to check out the other two books in this series. All right. Okay. The Pack by William Essex. Now, this is a killer animal book done right. This is one of the horror books I read last year during October Terror, and this book I really enjoyed. And this is how you do a killer animal book, where you focus on the killer animals and less on the human characters, and you show the animal leaving a path of carnage, mayhem, and destruction. That's what I want to read, and this author gets it right. So the basic plot of the novel is that it starts with these two dim-witted characters. As this is the one thing I caught on in the book, that most of the human characters are really stupid and dumb and make a lot of poor decisions. Not everyone, but a lot of the human characters were dumb to the point where I didn't give a shit for any of the human characters, and just it was rooting for the killer dogs at this point. So these two dipshits that run this junkyard decide that they're bored, and they decide, let's go to the bar, get drunk, and try to have some sex with some woman there. And just before they leave, they lock up the gate to the junkyard, and the one guy's concerned that the dogs might escape, and the other guy assures, oh no, they won't escape. And I feed them very little to keep them alert and stuff, because I find if I feed them too much, they become lazy. Well, these dogs are furious with their owners as they're treated terribly. They're starving, they're hunting rats to survive, and then one of the dogs finds a rabbit, chases after it, the rabbit goes through a hole, and then this dog starts digging the hole, and then the other dogs see what this dog's doing, so they all dig a hole together, and they crawl out of the fence and escape into the wilderness. Then it jumps to a few years later, where they have formed a very large pack, and they hunted mostly animals, and they reach this like farming community, and they kill a cow, and then they attack the calf's young, and then they attack the farmer in a very brutal scene where he's just ripped to shreds. And I'm reading this is like the first few pages in the book, and I'm like, yes, this is how you do a killer animal book, exactly like this. Then after that, they just go from one place to another, just killing people. These scenes are brutal and violent. The author never like cuts away at any of the violence. He makes sure that you have a front row seat to see the carnage and mayhem that these dogs do, and I absolutely enjoyed it. The detail is very good. I did find it funny how the author would kind of switch his writing style. So when he follows the dogs, it's like very just like grimy and filthy. Like he doesn't give the dogs like names. I wish he did do that. So that way we kind of get like know who's who. Like he just says this breed of dog did this breed of dog did that. It's one thing I noticed, that every time the author focused on a female dog, he didn't say female dog. He said the bitch did this, the bitch did that. It's like what? So. And this is another amusing part. The one leader of the pack is constantly licking his balls. The author puts chops, and this made me chuckle. It's like every time the book focused on the dogs, he writes it in such a filthy, grimy way, and then when he follows the human characters, it's normal. Like this is something such, and this is what they did. It's like compared to the dogs, it's like it's such a like sleazy way of like writing these scenes. But I enjoyed it. Now, the human characters, like I said, there's no likable human characters at all in this story. Like, everyone is just either a dim-witted, stupid, or they constantly forget to do the simplest thing, especially the main character who I hated the most. At the beginning of the book, he's supposed to deliver a vaccine to this farmer who gets killed, and he decides, I'll do it tomorrow. I'd rather have sex with my new girlfriend. Shows up the next day, oh no, the farmer's dead. I should have showed up yesterday. And then he makes another mistake which angers me. The farmer's dog hasn't been fed, and it's been left there. So what does he do after the police do their crime scene investigation? Does the main character take the dog with him? No, he doesn't. Instead, he just pets the dog, ties it to the front porch, and leaves it there. I'm like, you asshole. And then when the pack shows up, I thought, I swear, if the pack kills this dog, I'm going to be really mad. But no, they don't do it. They free the dog, and then later on, when it's discovered that now this dog is with the pack, the main character again is like, oh, I should have checked on the dog. Like, you're an idiot! And this guy is supposed to be a vet, and he makes so many mistakes. It's like, is everyone stupid in this book? So there's no likable human characters, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna let that slide because what this book makes up for, the pack, what it makes up for is it delivers a lot of violence, gore, carnage. The story focuses on the killer dogs, and not once was there like a disappointing moment. Like the finale, I enjoyed, and I thought this was a fun book. So despite the fact there's no human characters I didn't like for, however, the author makes up for it with lots of violence and killer animals, and this is how you do a killer animal book. You focus on more of the killer animal, less on the human characters. I'm not saying that the human characters need to be all likable and stuff, but just like have some likable characters and the rest not, of course. But just there's, but no one in that book I cared for. It was just I found that book so amusing that I was rooting for the dogs most of the time than the human characters in that book. But overall, I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. Okay. Number 6, The Club Dumas by Arthur Perez Reverte. This was a book I decided to check out after giving the movie that it's based on, The Ninth Gate, another try. As the first time I saw this movie back in the days on cable TV, I didn't really get it, and I really didn't like the ending. So then I decided to check this movie out again after getting into a band called Velvet Antichrist, and their one album, they used samples from that movie, and it made me think about it. I thought, you know what, I really like to give that movie another try. So I get it on Blu-ray, watch it again. I really enjoyed it. As I found as I'm more older, I can learn to appreciate things better than I did when I was younger, and understand things a lot better. So the basic plot of the book is about the main character, Corso. He's a rare book dealer. He finds rare books and stuff, and he sells them. Then he gets drawn into this, he gets hired by this wealthy billionaire to prove that his copy of the Ninth Gate of the Shadows is legit, and to check out these other copies of the book to see if the book's legit or if it's a phony. So he travels from Portugal to Paris and stuff, and he there's this mysterious woman who aids him, and there's these other people that are following him, and there's supernatural elements in the story. Then he gets drawn into like this cult and stuff. And it was a really good book. I really enjoyed it, but I felt the book was really good. I enjoyed it, but I felt the movie was just a lot better. Like, it improved a lot with the story and plot, and I liked the finale a lot better. But overall, I still enjoyed the book. The one thing I really like about both the novel and film is that I love how the stories are centered around books and authors and stuff. I really like that, especially when there's supernatural elements added to it. I really enjoy that a lot. So very detailed. The pacing was good. Very well layered, detailed characters. The story follows. There are some funny parts in it, and when it features like death scenes, they're very brutal in the book. And overall, I just really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the book, despite I felt the film was better. But overall, I still enjoyed the book, and I would definitely like to check out more books by this author. However, as I said in my review, it's not easy finding some of these other authors' works, as not a lot of them are translated in English and stuff. So I'll see what I can find more. I'll see what other books I can find with this author. But overall, I really enjoyed the Club Dumas. All right, number 5, Carter's Sword by Harry Adam Knight. This was a book I wanted to check out after seeing the film of the same name, which the film has nothing to do with the book whatsoever, and I heard the book was a lot better and more violent. So, this is one of those obscure, a couple years ago, it was an obscure book to get at the time. And I was able to track down a movie tie-in, which was was probably the lowest price I could get, as trying to get the original paperback Carter's Sword is very expensive at the moment. But anyway, I'm glad I finally got this book because it was a lot of fun to read. The basic plot is that it's set out in this like English countryside, and there's this evil scientist billionaire guy who is creating dinosaurs and other prehistoric animals, and his plan is to release them during an event of World War III so they can reclaim the planet Earth. And this journalist that wants to get out of this town, he is tired of doing the usual stories that are not like anything big, and he doesn't like the fact that his ex-girlfriend is at the same place he works at, so he wants to get out of there. And then he finally then one day when he goes to the police to see if they got anything for him, they got a report that a family's been attacked, and it's like, ooh, this is my moment. So when he gets there to investigate, he is told he's not allowed to investigate. The whole area is like closed off, and even the police are told to stand down. And he's like, "What the hell is going on?" So he begins snooping around, and he begins following the billionaire who claims that a rare Serbian tiger from his private zoo has escaped, and he does, of course, buy this because he's thinking, if it was a tiger, why can't I report it then? So him, his ex-girlfriend, then another person, another woman, the billionaire's wife ends up like aiding him and stuff, and he then uncovers his plot and stuff. And this was just overall a fun book. It's not a very thick book. It's very short and simple, but it's a lot of fun. And then when these dinosaurs get released, the author just doesn't hold anything back on the violence and carnage and stuff. It's like the death scenes are brutal, very gory. There's a lot of action in the book, some humor in it. And overall, I had a lot of fun reading this book, and I would definitely like to check out more books by this author. It was just a lot of fun reading it. All right. Number 4, Planet of the Apes by Pernilla Boyle. This was another reread. This is one of my favorite science fiction books, and I remember when I first saw Planet of the Apes for the very first time. I saw the original one with Charlton Heston, one of my favorite films when I was growing up, and then of course I saw the terrible remake, the Tim Burton remake, which was terrible. Even though the special effects was good, but the story sucked. But anyway, I watched Planet of the Apes so many times. I wanted to read the book it was based on, and for the longest time I couldn't get a copy of it. Then one day my dad got me the Planet of the Apes for Christmas or my birthday, I can't remember which, but when I got the book, I was really excited, and when I read it, I was telling him how it's very different from the film. He was like, "Oh, interesting." So the plot of the book starts off, this couple, they're out on their like luxury spaceship. It's like a solar sail ship, and the wife spots a bottle floating, and there's like something inside of it. So the husband goes retrieves it, and it's got a bunch of like paper shoved inside of it. So he begins reading these notes written by this this astronaut who was part of this expedition team to check out this planet in the solar system. And when they got there, they found these people that live there. They're naked, but their skin's gold. And the main character ends up forming a relationship with this one woman. She's a mute, Nova, and she's very beautiful. And everything seems going fine when suddenly they're attacked by apes wearing hunting suits, and they're shot at, and they're like riding trucks and helicopters. And one of the scientists gets killed, and the main character gets captured along with Nova, and then they're taken to this city, and there's all these like primates people that have their own clothes, society, and language and stuff, and vehicles. And then the main character meets a female chimpanzee who is like the scientist and wants to prove that humans are the ancestors to them. And then you got this gorilla who's not the gorilla, I forget what he's called, but he's like this evil primate who runs everything like a dictatorship, and he wants to exterminate the human race because they're damaging their crops and stuff. And the chimpanzee scientist is trying to protect them and stuff. And the main character is able to prove that humans are intelligent, and he learns to speak their language, and he also teaches the chimpanzee scientist how to speak French. So it's a very interesting book. It's like adventure story, and it's very well written. The detail is good. The pacing's excellent, and there's I'm not gonna reveal the twist ending, but it really catches you off guard. It's one of my favorite books, and if you have not read Planet of the Apes, I highly recommend you check the novel out. It's an excellent science fiction book. Okay. Number 3, Dad's Nuke by Mark Laidlaw. This was a book that I decided this was not for I want to check out, as I know Mark Laidlaw from the video game. He wrote the screenplay for Half-Life. So when I discovered he actually was an author, I was like, I got to check out this guy's books, and I decided to start with Dad's Nuke. Is the first one, and a friend of mine told me that the lead singer of Billy Talent was a fan of this book, and it's what inspired him to do the song River Below along with the music video, even though there's some differences between the music video and the book itself, but that's where he got his main inspiration from. But anyway, the book is set in an alternate event where basically a nuclear war has turned most of the United States into a wasteland. There's a part of it that's being rebuilt and stuff, and you got this kind of dysfunctional family as they live in this suburban neighborhood. It's set in the 90s, but the book has that like suburb like the 50s and 60s, and the thing with this neighborhood is that anyone who's got the bigger and better weapon is the like the kind of like the better man out of everyone. So keeping up with the Jones theme is in this book, and the father who starts off as like this self-centered asshole and wants to outbeat his neighbor who's got like a air defense missile as his weapon. He wants to beat him. Then he has this one oldest son who wants to run away after in this future the doctors decide what sexuality you are, and they decide to make the son gay, which angers him. He's had enough of living in this neighborhood, and he's tired of having to write apology letters to all the neighbors and stuff every time the father embarrasses them and stuff. So he runs away, goes out into the wastelands, and then he gets recruited into this resistance group who are training him to be a soldier and stuff, and a bunch of other things happen, and the father then gets an offer from his company. He works at a nuclear power plant, and they offer him to be the first one on the block to power his house with a nuclear reactor, which he says yes to because this will put him one better than his neighbor, which makes his neighbor jealous and stuff. And a bunch of other things happen, but this was a very interesting book. It's not for everyone. It's a very different and strange book, but it is very well written. The characters are very well written and layered and stuff, and then the father kind of learns the errors of his ways, and even the son starts questioning his sexuality because he doesn't believe he's gay at first, but then he starts wondering, am I really gay? Which there's a part where he kind of questions his sexuality, which it's done very well. There's a lot of like topics the author touches upon in the novel, and overall, I really enjoyed it. It was a very well-written book, and I really enjoyed it. And I definitely will be checking more books by that author. Okay, number 2, Rasp by Unanu. This is one of the gay-free romance novels I read last year on the channel. I really enjoyed it, despite the fact this book made me cry at the end, which was a first for me. You know, when I read books, sometimes the ending will make me really angry, mad, or throw the book across the room, and other times, like, that was an excellent ending. This one made me cry at the end. It's such a touching, sad ending, and I was in tears. But if an author can make you have feelings for the characters, they're doing their job right. And this was a really good book. So the plot is basically it's set in Africa during the tribal era, and the main character Kuno, who is a pearl diver, he's out pearl diving on his boat when he sees a storm coming, so he returns back to his village, and a tsunami hits this village and destroys everything, and he later awakens as the only survivor, and he's floating on the sea, and then he finds a raft, he swims towards it, but then he finds also on the raft is a gull, kind of like a hyena creature, who they're kind of hostile towards Kuna's tribe, as they're afraid, his people are afraid that the gulls will eat them and stuff, and he reveals that one time his tribe tried to come to an agreement with the gulls and stuff, but they had a language barrier, and this caused a fight to happen. So the two tribes try to avoid each other as possible. But when this gull sees Gunu, it doesn't attack him, and his one leg is in pain. So Kutunu is able to approach the gull and then help with his injured leg, and then the two begin communicate each other, and then the gull reveals his name is Shima, and then the two main characters they find this tropical island, and they bring the raft there, and they basically the whole book follows them trying to survive together while on this island. They learn more about each other, their culture. They learn to speak their languages, and then their friendship starts to bond into a relationship where the two start loving each other. And the sex scenes were absolutely the best, along with one of my favorite parts with the naked dance. It was a lot of fun too. And this book has a lot of humor. There's a lot of touching moments in the story, and I really enjoyed it. But the ending, I'm not going to reveal here. The ending had me in tears. It was just such a sad ending. But it reveals that even after death, love can still go on, even in the afterlife. So it does end on somewhat of a happy note. But overall, I really enjoyed this book, and I'm looking forward to reading more books by this author, and more furry books on the channel as well. Number 1, The Running Man by Stephen King, under the pen name Richard Bachman. This was my favorite book by Stephen King when he wrote under the Richard Bachman pseudonym. But this is one of my favorites. I love the whole plot of this book, the setting of it. It's very detailed. I like the characters in it. It's got a lot of atmosphere. It's got a lot of atmosphere in it. Lots of scenes of like just empty, abandoned places. Lots of like fog and rain. and a lot of this book has a lot of action too. It's got a lot of foot chase. There's a car chase in it and a shootout, and the finale was I absolutely enjoyed the finale as well. So the plot of the book is about Richard Benjamins. He lives in this very rough area in Co-op City as the rich and socially control a lot of the like they get like a lot of the nicer areas, and they have like a lot of tight control over stuff. Um, Richards was fired from a steel mill, I believe, and he's unable to find work. His wife has turned to prostitution to provide money for them, and their daughter is sick with an illness they can't afford to get medicine. And Richards lives in his apartment is described as absolutely terrible, and the heating doesn't even work. So he decides enough is enough. He's going to enter in the Running Man, which is this deaf sport that people watch, and he's going to enter on it to win money to help support his family. His wife is against this, but he assures her that he'll stay alive as long as he can to provide enough money for them to get out into a better place. So he leaves his apartment, and it's in this very rough area. There's a lot of graffiti on the walls. There's a lot of garbage, lots of big rats and feral cats, some dead animals, and people lying in alleyways and stuff. So he has to travel on foot as he doesn't have a car, can't afford to take the bus, and a lot of vehicles that are driving by are like very beat up and rough, and release a lot of thick carbon dioxide and diesel smoke into the air. And then when Richards gets to the game, gets to the game studio, he fills it. It's like, of course, much nicer area, and then right beside it is like the Richardson Memorial Park. He does a bunch of tests. He passes, and he's chosen for this year's Running Man. And basically, he's given this kind of like it's like basically this ball, and basically it records. He has to record himself doing stuff, and he has to deliver these disc tapes to mailboxes that way the game studios can broadcast what he's recorded, and that way he'll get paid. He also told he gets a bonus for killing hunters, cops, and anyone else that also tries to take him down. So he gets like a 12-hour head start or something, and basically he's doing his best to avoid hunters that are after him. At the same time, he meets people that help him, and the book and also the book touches on subjects touches on a lot of subject matter and stuff. So this book has a lot more going for it than just a story. There's a lot of like subjects that King touches upon in the story, which I really liked. Social elite and the rich controlling everything, and and basically what these poor people are going through. It's like the people living in like the poor rough areas, they're just barely struggling to survive, and the rich don't give a shit about them. And this angers Richards more, which leads to him changing his motive from wanting just to stay alive as long as he can to wanting to bring down the game networks for causing all this stuff. So I like the themes that King explores in the book, and as I'm reading this book, I love the scenery of like abandoned areas, lots of fog and rain and stuff. It just made me think of like John Carver's Escape from New York. Like the way the film looks, that's what this book makes me think of that movie. And as I said, I love the finale. It's excellent, and I'm very happy that there's a remake of the film coming out this year, and it's going to stick more true to the book, and I'm really looking forward to seeing that. And I definitely would do I gotta read the other Richard Bachman books on the channel. I would love to own those books, get the original paperbacks and stuff. As I know they're very pricey to come by, especially the one Rage. But one of these days, I will get all those Richard Bachman books. But The Running Man is one of my favorite books by him. Alright, that's sort of the video today. Hope you enjoy it, and please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to October Library, the YouTube channel where I post book reviews, book hauls, and other fiction-related content. Until then, I'll catch you later.